Good morning. Welcome to the Human Resource Management module. My name is Mr. Chin. I will be the course leader for this program. What we have done is that we have designed 11 lessons for this program. Each lesson will carry about 40 minutes of video lecturing and supported by assessment tests at the end of the lessons. And you will also find that we are suggesting some videos that you can watch through YouTube, besides the short questions and multiple choice that we have prepared at the end of the lessons. The idea is for us to also evaluate you, or for you to have a self-evaluation to see how much you have learned throughout each lesson. Now, before we start, I will just run through with all of you the 11 lessons that we have actually designed for you so that you have a good idea of what are the first lessons about and subsequently leading to the final 11th lesson. As you can see here, in lesson 1, we are moving into looking what human resource management is all about. A lot of us may not necessarily have a good background in human resource, so this module is designed for people who may have experience and also at the same time for people who may not necessarily have in-depth experience in human resource matters. In lesson 2, we move on to look into how organizations or how companies actually plan their workforce, how do they forecast their manpower, and what sort of people do they require. And that actually brings us to the third lesson, whereby you start to look for the right candidates through certain advertisement that you put up, through different platforms, especially in today's digital medias and so on. At the same time, we cover a little bit about how you actually screen and test candidates that you think is suitable for you or you think it fits your organization. In lesson 4, we move into some interviewing techniques, things that you should avoid when interviewing a candidate and things that you should actually use when assessing a candidate. And that will allow you to finally select those candidates that you really want, and hopefully they will actually contribute to your organization. When you have people in your organizations whom you have spent effort and time recruiting them in, you need to also develop them in order for them to contribute their skills and knowledge to your organization. Things are not static, things are changing all the time, and people need to acquire new knowledge. Continuous learning is required before they can actually contribute fully to your organization. A very important chapter or lesson that we will actually share with you is regarding compensation and benefits. Without the right compensation strategy, the organization may not be competitive in terms of recruiting the right candidate or high caliber candidates. At the same time, you may not be motivating those candidates or those people that whom you have employed. Lesson 7 looks into how you actually monitor and manage the performance of your people. What is expected of them? Are they reaching those goals and targets that you have actually set for them? And if not, what do you do about that? How do you actually close that gap? In lesson 8, we will actually look into areas where employees, despite giving them chances to improve, despite giving them opportunities to learn and contribute, they may still not be able to contribute to the organization. So therefore, how do we actually part hands with such people without violating the laws? And in lesson 9, we look a little bit into workplace safety, as safety at workplace is so important because it contributes a huge cost to the organization if these are not handled very well. We'll touch upon the Industrial Relations Act and also the formation of trade unions, and have a better understanding of what are the rights of the employees in cases of dismissal, or employees' rights joining unions and having unions representing them against their employers. And finally, we will have an overall view about the Malaysian Employment Act 1955, whereby it touches upon the contracts of employment, it touches into the terms and conditions of employment, basic terms in terms of hours of work, the leave that an employee is entitled to, the other benefits that are afforded under this act. All this will be actually touched upon in the final lesson under the Malaysian Employment Act 1955. So with that, we move to lesson 1, Introduction to Human Resource Management. So welcome to the first lesson, Human Resource Management. And what are we going to learn today, or learn in this lesson 1? We'll look into the relationship of the management process and human resource management. We'll look into why every manager needs to know a little bit about human resource, and recognize the trends that has been changing or influencing the way human resource management goes about doing it in moving currently as well as in the future, and the competencies that people who practices human resource they need to have moving forward as well. Now, in this lesson, I'll be using the word HR or HRM instead of mentioning human resource management, which is a pretty long word. So I'll be using HR or HRM in my presentation. So how does HRM relates to the management process? You pick any book, any text from bookstore or from your school, and most management books will talk about the management process as having the following functions: the planning, organizing, staffing, leading, and controlling. Now, the HRM function pretty lies into the area of the staffing part. And this part is where we are focusing on as far as human resource is concerned. And why is human resource management so important to all managers? For example, if managers do not know something about HR, they will tend to make mistakes in terms of communicating with their employees, especially in terms of the contract of the employment that the employees have. For instance, if a staff asks a manager about hours of work and basic benefits that they are having, the immediate superior needs to know some of these points and terms so that at the end of the day, they do not communicate the wrong information across to them, and that will cause serious motivational issues and conflict in terms of the relationship between the superior and the employee. Secondly, managers need to know because it helps to improve profits and performance. Why? Simply because if you have an employee that is engaged, motivated, knowing what is expected of them, they are able to focus their time and energy into performing for the organization. Third, every manager must spend some time with their people, not the HR manager from the HR department, because the line managers, I call them, usually are working closely with them throughout the day. So in this context, they are acting like an HR manager in terms of taking care of them, guiding them, counseling them, and bridging any gaps that they may have in terms of their work. And although the HR department is responsible for placing ads and recruiting people, at the end of the day, the right person that is required or needed by the managers will come from the line managers themselves, who actually knows what kind of person do they need. So for this reason, pardon me, there should be the person who should be working closely with the HR department in selecting the right person for their own unit or department. Having new employees coming aboard is very important, especially new employees who are probably first time in their job. So the line managers needs to act like an HR person in terms of taking care of them and providing them guidance in their very early days to the organization. So in that context, their orientation process doesn't involve just the HR department, but must involve the line managers as well. Training employees. Who's the best person to train them? Of course, the immediate superior and the immediate managers in the unit or the department. It will never be the HR managers. So how the employee perform in their job will depend on how the managers themselves guide them in the early days through proper orientation, through proper job expectation, through proper counseling and coaching. And creating their relationship with them goes a long way to ensuring the performance remains good and positive throughout the employment time with the organization. Although the company policies and procedures are usually disseminated down from the HR department, basic policies, the line managers are also instrumental in touching base with their employees or with their new staff. And of course, cost is something that the line manager should be looking into as to how many person do they need for the department. Would they actually know what kind of people do they need and what sort of people do they need to hire, and to a certain extent, what sort of price should we actually be paying for such personnel coming into the unit? As we have said earlier, it's a responsibility of the managers to continue to develop the abilities of every new employee so that they are continuously able to add value to the organization. Creating departmental morale was spoken earlier, and protecting the new staff health and also guiding them and counseling and educating them on workplace safety is the responsibility of that line manager. So what are the trends shaping human resource management going forward? We are looking into workforce demographics have changed, unlike 10, 15 years ago. Women, elderly people are coming to the workforce besides the people who are the young people or new people who graduate from universities. It used to be jobs are dominated by men, but today the female sex is equally contributing to the workforce as well. And included into the diversity of trends is that with globalization, which of course in bullet point number 4, we are looking into people from other countries coming into your country and working together with you. And that poses a lot of challenges in terms of getting people to assimilate into the culture of the organization. So the HR managers today have to look into the cultural aspects of people from different countries whom they recruit into the organization, and ensuring that end of the day, the local people and those from other countries are able to blend in to contribute to the organization. Trends in how people work. Today, people are not looking into doing a job. They need to look at their own career. They need to look at how they grow in terms of their compensation. Some may be looking into how they actually they value a bit of a lifestyle in terms of just work. So the work must be designed in such a way that fits these people today, and in order to keep such people for longer periods of time. Performance will always be required in most organizations, and hence new ways to measure the performance of people, setting new goals and objectives of the people, providing knowledge for people to perform is required. In terms of the HR technologies, you look at the way that technologies have impacted onto HR in terms of recruitment, in terms of training, in terms of keeping records. Today, you don't find people organizing just putting advertisement into newspapers anymore. Most of them are on the social media. Seldom do we even find people having time clocks and everything. Digital photos are actually installed in mobile applications where they can monitor the attendance of the employees as well. New training applications has also come about because of the advancements of technologies, and the employees themselves can go to different websites and access those programs to gain knowledge. And in cloud computing, a lot of information are shared from different units of the department. And most of the time, some of those information are used interactively as feedback and evaluation of the candidate as well. So what would be the new human resource management look like, or the new human resource managers would look like in the future? In the future, we believe that new human resource manager must have a big picture and have strategic vision in the way they handle HR. No longer the transactional kind of HR that deals daily with recruitment, payroll, hiring and firing, so-called. The HR manager of the future must work closely with the strategic direction of the organization, with financial as well, and see how they can add value to the organization. So we look at the trends of human resource management. We are looking into what I call a distributed HR, whereby you are going to let the line managers spend more time on HR tasks with their immediate employees. And the HR manager may be focusing together with top management in terms of the strategies for the organization. And this is where strategic human resource management comes about. This is what will be the direction for the future in HR, whereby the HR management will be one where you will need to look into how they can produce employees with competencies and behaviors that helps the company to achieve its strategic aims. Another important area that has grown in HR is about how HR institute or initiate programs whereby you get the employees to be engaged with the organization. And engaged employees usually will say good things about the organization, will strive to perform even better for the organization. These are the sort of employees that we need going forward if the organization needs to be competitive compared to their competitors. So the new human resource manager role in terms of competencies, the skill sets that we believe that the need will be one that actually be familiar with financial information. And they should be an HR person whereby whatever initiatives and plans that they may have that can bring into the organization, they must defend their plans in terms of measurable terms, as in terms of financial terms. For instance, if they ever have to spend money on training, they must determine if those training that have been invested into, is there some sort of a return on investment for this training, whereby those who have spent on training, are they coming back to contribute and provide added value to the organization in terms of dollars and cents? So this is where the new HR person must look into the financial aspects as well. Another example is in recruitment. You need KPIs for HR managers in terms of recruitment. How fast are you bringing the people? What is the cost in terms of hiring the person? All this must be in terms of dollars and cents so that you can measure the performance of the HR managers as well. So I suggest that the 6 critical skills for the new HR managers involve, of course, basic HR knowledge. Second, continuous HR learning. Great communication skills, whereby they need to know how to resolve conflicts in the organization, which arises very often. Critical thinking skills is required now, as the HR person no longer work as an operational person. They will need to be working together with top management to think out strategies that will help the companies to compete better with their competitors. Ethical approach for human resources will be one whereby the future of these HR people will be one. They need to protect the information of all the employees and any sort of informations that are private and confidential in nature. And of course, having organizational skills. The more organized you are, the better you are able to spearhead in terms of driving the organization towards the next level. And that concludes the end of the first lesson. And hope this helps. Thank you very much for listening.